public. This time, the public is learning right along with the scientists. And I bet you figured it out that it's not like what they show on TV. So just keep in mind that the information, while it has changed from February to December, is changing because the science is changing. We are learning new things. And that's where we have to consider, the information and your sources of where you're getting that kind of information. So just like Susan was saying, and communication being incredibly important, it's also important to check your sources in multiple places. You don't want to just assume that the one place you're getting it from is the end all and be all. And to that end, if you were to decide today that you were going to do a gathering for Christmas, today is December 22nd. If you were exposed to COVID-19 today, and that exposure resulted in an infection, within 3 days, you would be contagious, but not symptomatic. And that places us right on Christmas Day. It wouldn't be until 2 days later that after Christmas on the 27th, that you would start showing symptoms. So if you were choosing to get together with your family, just keep in mind that wear a mask. I know that doesn't sound like a fun Christmas, but if you were exposed today, you will be contagious on Christmas Day and won't know it until the 27th. And that's at the earliest of the timelines. It could be the 28th or 29th until you realize. So we have to take those things into consideration as well, because this virus isn't like the flu. If you were sick with the flu and you got exposed today, by midnight tonight, you would be sick. You would know not to go see your family on Christmas Day. But COVID-19 is a little slower of a burn, and therefore it takes a few more days for your body to start expressing symptoms of the infection. And in those days that it's waiting for those symptoms to show up, you are able to spread the virus to your loved ones. So just take those things into consideration when you're making your plans.
People probably are hearing us and thinking we're playing the part of the Grinches who stole Christmas, but that's not at all what we're here for. We're just trying to help people understand the very real risks of gathering in groups. There's been a lot of talk of those risks. Let's talk about it both from a communications and interaction standpoint and from a science standpoint. How is the virus spread, and why does that elevate the risk when people are gathering in these smaller groups, including maybe over the holidays? Yes, Susan, do you want to take that first?
Well, I think it's important to realize that everybody has a different level of risk, right? And we need, again, we're talking about preparing for these gatherings. So we need to really consider those people who are in the obese category, particularly those with a BMI at 35 or over. We realize that people who are older, 65 years and older, people who are immune compromised, who have diabetes and heart disease, all of those people have a higher risk of getting COVID and having more serious consequences, I guess I should say. We realize when we're gathering, and it's important to note, sometimes it seems like people don't care, but I think a lot of it is because they feel different comfort levels with risk. Some of my own family members don't mind, going to the grocery store. Some people don't mind visiting with the neighbors or letting their kids play with the neighbors. Everybody's different. And again, I keep emphasizing, we need to articulate those levels of risk and be public about that. And finally, risk, Jill usually uses an example like this when we throw a stone in the pond. Right? The water, the ripple effect goes out. Well, if you throw multiple stones in the pond, right, additional ripples occur. And we end up becoming more susceptible to more people. There was a study very recently out of Johns Hopkins by Robert Anderson, an epidemiologist who's chief of mortality specialist at the CDC. And, you know, his feeling about the risk of COVID was that it was more dangerous than driving a car. And more people have died of COVID in the last 8 months than who have had the seasonal flu in the last 5 years. So even though not a lot, but many people brush off the seriousness of this risk by saying, you know, it's nothing different than a flu, the statistics that are coming out of areas like Johns Hopkins, the University of Pittsburgh, and many other areas are indicating that the risk is really much more serious. And so, yes, another Grinch sort of comment about this.
Jill, let's hear from the biologist about risk.
So when we think about risk, you have to take into consideration where you live. And assuming that most of us live in the Johnstown area, we have to think about how that community spread is occurring. If you're interested, after the talk, I urge you to go to CMU's website. They have a website called COVIDcast, COVIDcast, and it will let you recognize up to a week in advance, like a week and ahead. That's like Doppler radar for COVID. Okay, so it'll allow you to project what the risk is going to be in a particular area. I checked that out this morning for Cambria County.